So good morning, everybody, and I'd first like to thank Darshan and SISA for inviting me across to India. I have to say this is my first ever visit to India, and it's been a fantastic experience. It has lived up to all of my expectations, apart from the traffic. I think my binding memory would just be of Indian traffic. It's scary sometimes, which is interesting as it relates to payment security, which can also be scary at times. And maybe also continuing that link, people got where they wanted to go. It was a little scary, it was a little dangerous, and sometimes it was slower than you thought. But if you continue with dedication and effort, you'll get there. And I think that's one of the things you have to take into consideration when you're thinking about payment security is, you know, this isn't a journey that you're going to do and be at the finishing line in 2 minutes. This is a journey that's going to involve many challenges and many different activities. But it's a journey that you've got to go through, and you take your time and get all of your staff involved in, because it's so important to all of your organizations. So why do I talk about it like that? This is why. You know, I can give this presentation anywhere in the world because, unfortunately, that's how we're working now. As we move into using more e-commerce, more m-commerce, more internet-connected site systems and organizations, we live in a world where we don't have to have the criminal living in India attacking Indian companies. We don't have to have the criminals living in the UK attacking UK companies. We are dealing with international criminals that can sit anywhere in the world because all he needs is a computer connected to the internet. And unfortunately, that is what we're seeing. We're seeing organized criminal gangs hacking into organizations anywhere in the world where they can find their way in easily, where they can find the information that they want, and then they can turn that into money. Because that is what they're all about, is monetizing their life of crime. How do they do this? They utilize the dark web. They are as organized, if not more organized than we are. They have the benefit that they don't have to follow the rules and the requirements and the regulations. They can do anything they like because they're the criminals. And so they exchange information to allow them to provide malware or to provide card data or to provide anything they need on the internet. And unfortunately, our cards are a goldmine for the criminals. You know, what is fantastic is to see how effectively India is migrating towards EMV. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But unfortunately, there is still a lot of information that's of use to the criminals. You know, the unfortunate challenge is that when we move into the e-commerce space, we lose the benefit of the chip card. We then are using the PAN, the cardholder name, the expiry date, the CVV data on the back. We still have the mag stripe on the card, which again is an opportunity for the criminals when we insert our cards into ATMs and the like. There is still a lot of options and opportunities for the criminals to be able to gain this information. One of the other things that we're seeing as well is it's not just the card data that they are interested in. The criminals are learning to monetize our personal information. If they have your name and address and the details of your bank account, then they can start phishing you to try and gain access to that, to try and obtain funds that way. And so as organizations, it is your responsibility to be good guardians of all of your customers' data, the card data, the personal data. And I have to say, wherever I've been in the world, the best method of doing that is the PCI Security Standards Council. What I would also say is that for organizations who are starting out on a journey of trying to gain a good level of protection, having a good relationship with a security firm, such as our good friends here, SISA, has benefits the whole way along the journey. You shouldn't see assessors as somebody you call in at the end to say, well, have I done a good job? You've got to work more closely with the assessors to try and share information and take guidance so that you're saving yourselves time, effort, and money, knowing that you're doing things in the right way to protect this data. And this is important because protecting data is an ongoing process. It really doesn't end. It's not a tick box exercise. It's not about compliance. It's about security. As I've said, EMV cards reduce face-to-face fraud. How do I know this? This is what happened in the UK. You can see that in the years leading up to 2004 and then up to 2008, the UK was suffering massively from face-to-face fraud. In 2008, we worked out how to really use EMV effectively, and that was that. The fraud fell away to virtually nothing, and has continued to sit at this very low level ever since. On the other hand, you have to consider that, if that's the case, do I need PCI? I've got my chip cards. Well, the answer is yes, because we're seeing growing cybercrime. When you look at the number of crime cases in India, you can see from the information there, the chart, this is a massive hockey stick growth. We are seeing significant rises in cybercrime, which means the organizations in India are not secure. And when you're seeing exponential rises in fraud and crime cases, then it is time to start taking data security seriously within your organizations. And to take data security seriously within an organization, you have to start at the top. One of the things I say to organizations wherever I am in the world, and India is no different, is this is not an IT project. If you give it to the IT manager or the IT director, he will struggle. This is an organizational challenge. Your CEO, your executive board have to understand why they need to do this. They have to understand the impact on their organization of not doing it, and they have to realize that everybody, every employee who has an access to a computer has their part to play. You have to train people to understand data security. So with growing cyber attacks on the rise, what have you got to do? Well, the impact again shows itself in the figures. These figures are from Europe. Sorry, these are UK figures, I do apologize. And again, as you can remember the ones from 2008, you can see 2008 was a bad year in the UK. We topped out our fraud figures there. We tried to introduce some better security, and you can see we had a good effect, but you can also see that the criminals are also learning. It is a race. As fast as we're doing something, the criminals are doing something else. And so, unfortunately, last year, we raised for the first time the fraud, online fraud, card-not-present fraud, rose above the figure of 2008, and it continues to rise. So we know we're facing a global challenge in the card-not-present space, in the e-commerce space. So we have to be aware and alive to this, and we have to be reacting to it. As I've said, customer data is at risk. What do the criminals do? One of the interesting things is watching some of the feedback and fallout for some of the big breaches we've seen in the USA. We had Target, which is a major merchant, along with Home Depot, both significant breaches. And it's a chain of events. The person who invented the malware, he didn't put it into Target. He sold it on the dark net to somebody else who inserted it into the Home Depot and the Target. He collected the data, the card data. He didn't use it. He sold it on the dark web. Credit card data can sell from $15 to $50 a card, depending on the type of card, whether it's a gold card or a platinum card. And when you see some of these dark webs, the cardholder data that's being sold comes with a money-back guarantee. It says, we know this card is live data, and if it doesn't work, we'll give you your money back. So there is honor among thieves. They then sold the card data to other people who then undertook the fraud. And the people who were arrested were people who had nothing to do with the breach. They bought the card data and were using it in a store. Now, consider this. If you're law enforcement, how do you bring a case there? The people you want is the malware developer, but how do you get to him when he's in East Europe? The criminal who inserted the malware is in, let's say, Vietnam. The criminals who undertook the fraud, they came from Mexico, and the cards who were defrauded were in the USA. And this is the challenge law enforcement is facing globally. The criminals are all over the place. The cardholders are in different countries. It is very, very difficult to bring these cases. That's why it is always a challenge, and we have to work very closely with them to help bring this. Every year there is a very good report published by an organization called Verizon, which is their PCI compliance report and their data breach investigation report. And what this does, it tells us information about how these breaches happen. And a lot of people think, these criminals are really, really clever, and they must be doing fantastic things to get into our organization. And what these reports tell us, and our forensic investigators tell us, is actually that's not the case. Actually, most of these breaches could have been prevented with just basic levels of security. If you can just get a good basic level of security throughout your entire organization, most of the breaches wouldn't happen. What is also clear from these reports is we are not good at detecting when other people are in our systems. What we find is that it takes these criminals minutes to get into your systems, and it takes weeks to months to years for you to discover that they are there. And so in that time, they can move the data around. They can find out all about your networks and systems, far better almost than you can. And they're moving data around, and then they'll start taking the data out. And that is what you've got to be aware of. PCI security standards is not about building a wall to keep the criminals out. That is part of it. It is also about having good data security practices, having good log management, so that when your computers go, do you really want this person to have this access? Somebody reacts to that and says, well, actually, this person left a month ago. Why has he now got super admin rights? Because that is how the criminals do it. So you've got to adopt good levels of security. 67% of organizations are not doing that. That is far too many. How can we defend against this type of attack when we're not taking it seriously ourselves? How do I give you an example of this? In another report published by TrustWave, they did a survey of people's passwords. Now, I'm surprised anyone would tell anybody their password, but I'm even more surprised when the number one password in this report was 123456. Hardly a challenge for the criminal. They first started doing this in 2012, and actually then password 1 was the number one password. And in 3 years of telling people, please use stronger password, all we've managed to do is move password 1 from number 1 to number 2. We've had some success, but as you can see, most of those are not strong passwords. And the criminals know this, and so they can find a way in. One of the things we've seen in both the Target breach, in both the Home Depot breach, and many others, is it needs one failure point, and they are in. And once they are in, then they can download the malware that starts this whole chain rolling. If you're not going to prevent them getting in, you've got to detect they're in as quickly as possible. If you're not detecting them, that they're in your system, you're going to have a bad day. And that can now start seriously impacting your organization. People always say to me, Jeremy, PCI costs too much money. How can we do this when it costs so much money? And I say to you this. One, it wouldn't cost you as much money if you had a good level of data security in your organization in the first place. We are not, and we have not reinvented the wheel with PCI DSS standards. We have brought together what was best practice into one place. People always say to me as well, Jeremy, we've got all these other standards we have to meet as well. When you look at them closely, you will find that most are very, very similar and linked. If you look at ISO 27001, it will say you should have good network security. But it doesn't tell you how to do good network security. PCI DSS does tell you how to do good network security. So if you want to be ISO 27001 compliant, you want to be PCI compliant, just do it. Don't think of them as two standards. Think of it as one approach to security. Focus on security, get security right, and then you'll find that you're meeting the requirements and the needs of all of these standards. Improve it, and you'll get there. And the other thing as well is when you look at the impact of a breach, in some of those recent breaches, I think the cost to target so far is around about 160 million. Now, I've never known anyone spend $160 million on getting PCI compliant. It cost the CEO his job. It cost the chief security officer his job. That gets people's minds and attentions. If CEOs and executives start losing their jobs, they become aware that security is maybe something they need to focus on. The thing as well is, as the US migrates to EMV, that big pot of gold, which has been there for the criminals for so long, is going to go away. The criminals don't then just go, yeah, that's it, time to retire. They start looking for the next easiest place. The next easiest place is card not present. Does a criminal know that you're in India or the UK or Europe or the USA? No, he sees you as a number, which is a web address, and he sees you as weak security, and he sees you then as having cardholder data. It's up to you to introduce good levels of security to prevent them coming in and stealing your customers' data. Customers do not like this. We've seen it time and again. If you're breached and you don't manage the situation well, they will not shop with you. They will go to the next door. We are here to help. PCI is all about help. We do not just the standards. If you visit our website, we have lots of guidance documents, lots of supporting documents. We do lots of education. One of the things I say to people when they talk to me about PCI is, the thing I like best about PCI is it is a community. We work together with organizations. I know the payments industry is subtly different around the world. How you do things in India is different to how we do things in Europe, is different to how you do things in the USA. We have one standard. We don't have a standard for the US and a version for the UK and a version for Japan and a version for Asia and a version for Africa. There is only one version of PCI DSS. Therefore, to get involved in PCI is essential to make sure that we are reflecting in our standard the challenges of doing payments in India. We work as a community, we listen to that feedback, we take your input, and then the standard remains appropriate globally, up to date globally, relevant globally, good level of security globally. You know, we're working together to try and prevent fraud. Just a little bit about us. We were formed in 2006. We manage the standards. We develop them. We do the education and awareness. We also work and approve and certify all of the assessor companies. So we will train Darshan's teams, SISA, we register them on our website. You can find them. So we know who we're working with, know and update the quality of that. One thing we don't do is we are not responsible for compliance. We are not the ones who you say, am I compliant to? No, that is still remains with the brands, the MasterCards and Visa and American Express. That is their responsibility. We have a range of standards. It's not just the PCI DSS, although that's probably the one we're most aware of. We have the PCI PTS standard, which evaluates and approves every single chip and pin terminal. All these chip and pin terminals that are coming in will be PCI PTS approved. We know they're a good level of security. We know they're going to protect that cardholder data. We have our PCI PA DSS that looks after the applications running through the system to try and ensure that there's a good level of data security there throughout the process. And then behind that, we have our PCI DSS. At the bottom, you'll see some words P2PE, point-to-point encryption. One of the things that we've seen is even when you've got EMV cards and EMV transactions, certain data elements, the PAN, the cardholder name, the expiry date, are sent in the clear text. That was because they need to be able to route that to the correct bank account. As you've seen, unfortunately, those are the very elements that the criminal needs to undertake a card-not-present fraud. So how do you try and prevent that from happening? How do you prevent the criminals obtaining that cardholder data? Well, you can encrypt it at the PCI-approved PTS device. It takes it away from the very start of the process. And running through the entire transaction process, it is secure. One of the things we're trying to do is devalue the data. If we can remove the data elements that are of value to the criminals, if we can secure those data elements, then it reduces the opportunity and the options for fraud. And that is what we want. For you, as organizations, one of the most important things to remember and really take away is you need to know where the data is and how it flows through your organization. There are many different ways in which data can come into your stores or your organization. It can come through the point of sale. It can come through people phoning in and doing mail order, telephone order transactions. It can come through e-commerce. It all starts flowing into these data chains, and those data chains can go through third-party payment providers, through the internet to the acquiring bank. But also, as you can see, in amongst that, you've got other bodies, other groups in your organization who perhaps have access to this data. The management, the sales and marketing, the stock control, and third parties. If these parties have access to the cardholder data, they need to be brought into the security picture. They need to be part of this process. So you need to look at that. So do our management really need to see transaction data? No, they don't. They don't need to see that card data. Just isolate that away. Segment them away. Do these third-party suppliers need to see the transaction data? No, they don't. Segment them away. Reduce the security window. Reduce the opportunity for the criminals to get into your organizations. Again, our standard has 12 main requirements, and they've been consistent throughout the entire life of the standard. What we do is behind the 12 requirements, there are many detailed elements that tell you exactly what you've got to do, and we update those on a regular basis. We also have payment application, data security standards, terminals, card production, point-to-point encryption, a variety of things. One of the things that we are not is we don't stand still. And again, this is where our cooperation with our community works at its best. Because technology, and payments technology especially, is changing faster than ever. It is not our job to prevent this. It is not our job to say you can't do that. It is our job to try and keep up with that. It is our job to try and say whatever you want to do payments, we're there to help you to make sure you can do it securely. And again, the interaction with our community enables us to see how this data is coming in and how new ideas are coming through, so we can start seeing what are the weaknesses. Because one of the things we do see is people tend to race ahead with new ideas. Companies love racing ahead with something. And you're there going, we don't want to stop that, but hang on a moment. Has this introduced a new area of risk? Has this opened up cardholder data to new challenges? Mobile commerce is a fantastic example of that. One of the things is we've had PCs now for about 30, 40 years. We've learned over that time how to lock them down and make them secure. We've had the smartphone for about 5 years, and we're learning as a world how to make them more secure. So we work with organizations, we work with the manufacturers, we work with the associations, the telecommunication providers, to try and understand what are the challenges. And so where we're looking at then is how can we improve that? And that is one of the big challenges we've got at the moment. We want to enable mobile commerce, but we want to enable it in a secure way. We've already been working with the manufacturers to allow secure acceptance using the dongle and the pin pad. We evaluate the dongle. We can make sure it's going to encrypt the card data when it's read. We evaluate the pin pad. We know that that will be secure. We've now got a very nice way for small merchants to accept payment securely. What we've now got to work on is how can we help secure the apps, how can we help secure other data elements running through that? Well, watching EMV. EMV are very active in this space. The Emv Tokenization that you're seeing coming through with Apple Pay and Samsung Pay uses a token. It doesn't have any cardholder data running through it. It just has a token. Really simple ways to ensure security is to get rid of this cardholder data. Again, we've got best practices and guidance documents that are really helpful. One of the top ways criminals are trying to get into organizations is what we call phishing attacks. They send an email out. These emails used to be very easy to spot. They were generally somebody saying, you know, I've got $1 million somewhere locked in an account. If you just give me $1,000, I'll be able to. And you knew that was phishing. Now it comes on proper heading with proper, better text that makes sense, that just says, can you just click on the link to download this document or check this? As soon as you click on the link, they're in. It downloads some malware into your system. We've seen this is a problem. Again, this comes down to security training. The worst people for clicking on phishing emails, your executives. You've got to train them. They're the worst, honestly. So we have ongoing security challenges. We have key problems, which are maintaining the secure systems, testing them, and then monitoring how the criminals are getting in. What we see is when the investigators go in to look at a breach, we find that these organizations weren't compliant to PCI. And it's not just that they were a little bit not compliant, they were massively not compliant, which means there is still too many options for the criminals to be able to break in and steal this data. You know, you've got to see the difference between compliance and security. Focus on security, and focusing on security will get compliance. You know, don't just rely on an annual assessment. You've got to change the mindset of everybody in your organization to be thinking about security. And once you do that, actually it doesn't start slowing things down. Actually it doesn't start raising costs because you're picking it up early, and then the whole process starts being fitted around with this, and it works smoother. And yes, we are going to change. One of the things you have to realize in this organization, especially within security, is we have to expect change, constant change. So, I'll say it and I'll say it and I'll say it again. Focus on security, not compliance. PCI DSS is not a once-a-year activity, and it's about three things. You have to focus on people, process, and technology. You can't just buy in lots of technology and expect yourself to be secure, because the people will fail and let you down. You can't just train the people and think that that'll be good without having the right technology in place, because they'll find a way in. You need the processes to help train the people, to help make sure that you've got the right equipment set up in the right way. Again, one of the challenges that we've seen in other parts of the world is the criminals also realize that a lot of the equipment that we buy, the firewalls, the routers, etc., they come with default passwords. And if we don't change those default passwords, you've left the front door open, because these default passwords, you can search for them. If you type Cisco router default password into Google, it will tell you them. Now, if I can do that, the criminals can do that. So again, ensuring you've got a secure setup, get rid of these default passwords, all part of the process. Also, things change. Software is always being updated. If we don't keep our software up to date, then that is how the criminals will get in again. You know, the software organizations are always responding to security breaches and providing these updates and patches. We've got to do that. We've got to implement them correctly to ensure that we are in the best place. Now, this is a challenge for certain organizations, because if you've got a major system running, you can't just go, right, here's a patch, I'll put it in, and suddenly your systems crash. So we do know it's going to take time, but you've got to have the process in place that says, right, when this patch comes in, we will test it, and we will check that it's not going to mess up our systems and stop us doing business, because we don't want that. But it is going to be in a process that's going to bring it into your systems as quickly as possible. As I've mentioned, one of the things we are aware of is the third-party access. The target breach occurred because their company, a third party which provided support for their air conditioning units, had access into their systems, which gave them access to all of the cardholder data. That was a huge mistake. What did we have to do? We had to tighten up our requirements to reflect that, and we now ask our assessors to check this. We don't want these backdoors there. And I've mentioned already, strong passwords. So it is ongoing security that gives us this ongoing defensive process. Prioritize technology, devalue data, reduce risk. One of the other good things about the PCI range of documentation is when you look at the standard, it's something like 300 requirements. And if someone says to me, how do I start? Where do I start? What is the first thing I do? Because one thing's for certain, experience has taught us, is that if you're a big organization that is working in many different areas and accepting payments in many different ways, PCI DSS compliance can take you around 2 years. So where do you start? Well, actually, we've got a document called the Prioritized Approach that tells you. It says, this is the first thing you should do, and it's all about network security. Now, one of the things there is, if you, as you're going through this process, have a good relationship with your acquiring bank, have a good relationship with, or establish relationships with the card brands, then you can give them your plan that says, this is our plan of how we're going to achieve PCI DSS. We are here day one. And then they will follow you, and you can keep them updated. Now, during that time, you're not compliant, but you are reducing your risk. You're significantly reducing your risk, and therefore making your organization more secure. The brands know this, the acquirers know this, and they will work with you. And your assessor company can help you along that journey. And that is going to help improve your security and help reduce the opportunities that criminals have of getting into you. Use trusted partners. The partners are really important in this. Find people who've got experience in your particular area. One of the things I've also found out as I've been working along this is the challenges faced by, let's say, the travel industry are significantly different to the challenges faced by major supermarkets and multi-lane retailers, is very different to the challenges faced by education and government. So a solution that works for travel industry may not work for the retailers, may not work for government. So you've got to work with people and talk to them about how is your organization set up? Where do you work? In which sector? What are your specific challenges? And they should be able to help you. Again, I am aware that this costs money, and therefore you've got to make the best use of the money you have. And therefore you want the best advice to know that when I buy this piece of kit, it is the right piece of kit for my organization in the sector I work. Because otherwise you can waste your money. It is a cooperation again. And organizations working in the community we have can share information, and we build up special interest groups of similar types of organizations, because the challenges the universities face in the UK are exactly the same as the challenges the universities face here in India. Share information, talk to each other, share experiences. Yes, we know you're competitors, but security isn't a competitive thing. Security affects us all. Education and training, we do provide this. From basic awareness training right up to, we train people now in organizations to the same level as our QSAs. They're called internal security assessors. And these people are fantastic to help get your organization in a good state. They work with the QSAs, they work with all parts of your organization to really help improve things. And I've said already, and I'll reiterate this, do work with us, do join the council, because with the partnership comes improvement and strength and security. We need you. We really need you. There are only 13 qualified assessor organizations supporting India. Your economy is growing like heck. It's fantastic. And I've driven around this week. I've just seen new buildings going up. Excitement. People walking around with a buzz. You can feel it. We need more organizations. We've only got one scanning vendor. one scanning vendor. We expect organizations to do quarterly scans. If you're in this area, we need you. We only have 58 participating organizations across the whole of the Asia region. It's not enough. How can we represent your views when you're not involved with us? People say to me, Jeremy, the PCI standard's a US standard. No, it isn't. Most of the participating organizations are US, therefore they have a big voice. I spent the last 4 years building the voice of Europe to challenge, to bring their input in. And now the standards reflect the views of Europe. I want to do the same here. If you're not in it, you can't influence it. Join us as a participating organization. There are many, many benefits you get from this. And it does make a difference. We hear your voice. We can work with you. We can give you more training, more benefits, more information. We also run what we call our conferences, and we have 2 that cover this area that within easy reach. We have our Middle East conference, which is in Dubai on the 6th and 7th of April, and we'd be delighted to see you there. We really would. We bring all of our security experts, we bring external security experts, and we have a fantastic couple of days. We have the same again in Asia. Our Asia Pacific conference is in Singapore on the 16th and 17th of November. Come to both. We'll have another set of speakers. They are fantastic events to share information. And we do have lots of interesting speakers. We do have lots of time for you to talk to other organizations, to learn from it. They are very, very valuable. Equally valuable, we've updated our entire website. We released a new website this year. It has everything easily found at your fingertips. So do go and have a look at it and have a wander around and try and read some of the supporting documents, the guidance papers. We've got a great paper on preventing skimming. We've got great papers on preventing phishing. We've got a great paper on how to set your company up to know how to react when you are breached. We've seen very clearly how organizations can do this badly, and it massively impacts their organization. We've seen other companies do it very well and be able to recover from the breach very efficiently. So do get involved, because you will make a difference. Do focus on security, and that will help you reach compliance. Do cooperate, and do share your views and findings with each other, because we're against global criminals. We have to be together to try and work to prevent this, because the criminals will attack us. We've seen the figures, the massive rise in cybercrime here in India. One of the things we're seeing is governments are getting fed up globally with this rise in cybercrime. I'm dealing with new regulations coming through from European regulators through the European Commission. I'm dealing with US federal government getting fed up, wanting to improve, and they force draconian measures on organizations around data security. So, use our standards to help us, because we are in a bitter challenge now, and we really do need everybody's help, because we want people to be confident that they can use your organizations, that they can use their cards, securing the knowledge that we're caring about the security of that card data, and we're caring about that customer. We want them to shop with us. We want them to use their cards. We want this to be a great experience, but we've got to be secure. Thank you very much.